Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. Once again, we are diving into Kingdom of Fear by Hunter S. Thompson, and we are going to pick up about where we did last time, and we'll rock on.
There is another school of thought that says Clinton would have been assassinated if he'd been able to run for a third term.
I don't know about that. He may have been, if he would have been able to run for a third term, but not real sure on that.
The Texas Mafia would never have let it happen, my friend Curtis assured me. He would have been jerked out like a bad tooth.
Yeah, yeah, Clinton did some sketchy stuff in his White House. Well, probably all his life, but you know, that's how you get to be president.
Maybe you have to be from Texas to agree with talk like that, but I doubt it. Texas is not the only state full of wealthy freaks with sinister agendas.
He got that right.
Some of them are friends of mine, in fact, and I have never doubted that just because they're nice people to have a few drinks with, doesn't mean they won't do monstrous things.
He is completely right about that. There are people that sinuses are going crazy. We have people that we see every day and talk to and interact with, but are capable of doing some fairly monstrous things behind the scenes, and probably do some monstrous things behind the scenes.
Cruelty and perversion are common jokes in the oil and orgy business.
I like that oil and orgy business, and if you look at the number of strip clubs and massage parlors in Houston, Texas, and Beaumont, Texas, Port Neches, Texas, yeah, that you definitely understand the oil and orgies.
Indeed. But we can save those stories for later. So let's get back to this woman I was trying to describe. Her name is Gail, but for vaguely legal reasons we will have to call her Jane. If I called her Gail, we would have a lot of bitching from lawyers. We will call her the witness.
Yeah, one thing Thompson had all his life was bitching from lawyers. His own and others, probably.
Which better suits her role in this drama. Some people called her the victim, but not for long. That was a convenient legal fiction for the local DA and his since-departed gang of vengeful thugs. They are gone from this valley now, most of them fired or demoted into obscurity.
As happens with unpopular once a politician becomes very unpopular.
The chief investigator in my case, the de facto boss of the gang, now works for the DEA in Europe. The prosecutor, now known as Mr. Shit Eyes, resigned soon after and is now a criminal lawyer in Aspen, where he is frequently seen on trial days with his arm around accused criminals wearing orange jumpsuits and handcuffs and jail haircuts.
Yeah, he has a very poignant look at lawyers, or at least corrupted lawyers, or in his opinion corrupted lawyers, I should say.
But he no longer works as a prosecutor. He flipped, as they say in the cop shop. I didn't know the witness personally, but she definitely knew me. She'd been harassing me by mail for 4 or 5 months, telling me I didn't know how much fun I was missing by not getting together with her immediately for a fascinating chat about her days in the sex business. We would have more fun than a barrel of monkeys in heat, she hinted. Ho, she would even come out to Colorado in order to meet me on my own savage turf. She'd already sent me a thick sheaf of lurid press clippings about her adventures as a wholesome college cheerleader.
Yeah, that's kind of like borderline stalker at that point.
Who got into the porno movie business by accident and had been a big success. I guess I was just lucky, she said demurely, but once I saw how much talent I had, I never looked back. It's just amazing, isn't it? It is important to understand that Jane had been extremely open with me, a complete stranger, about her background in the sex business. She was proud of it.
Yeah, that is something that started in the 90s. A lot of your porn actors and actresses moving up through the ranks and starting their own studios and not indulging in a lot of the drugs that were going on in the industry.
Her record spoke for itself. 9 successful XXX movies, including classics of abysmal lewdness like Hot Lips, Flesh Sucker, Candy Goes to Hollywood, Eat Me While I'm Hot, and a truly depraved saga about rape and degradation in a Japanese sex prison somewhere in the South Pacific called Nazi Penetration.
Yeah, yeah. One thing about the porn industry is they have some of the most imaginative titles on the planet.
Starring Long John Holmes, 1 berserk Nazi, and 5 helpless white women with huge tits. Nazi Penetration has long been one of my favorite films of the sex genre. It is a story of shipwreck, sadism, and absolutely hopeless female victims confined on a tiny tropical island with only a Nazi war criminal and 2 cruel Japanese nymphomaniacs to keep them company.
Yeah, the plots in porn movies are sounding more and more like resumes for political candidates running for political office, to be honest with you.
The naked white girls are innocent prisoners of some long-forgotten war that is never mentioned in the movie except by way of the frayed and often bottomless military uniforms worn by the demented villains, who also carry spotless German Lugers and don't mind shooting them at escaped sex slaves who keep running away and fleeing into the jungle, only to be recaptured and relentlessly raped and tortured for their efforts. They are losers, and they will never be rescued. Not even by the good-hearted Holmes, who also fucks them relentlessly.
Yeah, yep. That's kind of the porn industry and the with John Holmes in there. That's the movie's probably a 70s movie, maybe early 80s. Don't remember when he contracted AIDS and died. So yeah, it could be an 80s movie or late 70s. There's no telling.
I mention this epic of degenerate suffering only for reasons of historical context and witness identification. If Jane had been a practicing Jehovah's Witness when I met her, my story might have a different ending. But she was not. She was just another one of those goofy, over-the-hump porno queens from the good old days who was looking around for some other line of work to get into.
It makes you wonder how much of her paychecks went up her nose.
Something where she could use her natural talents for harmless commercial sex without compromising her artistic integrity or her dubious social standing.
Yeah, sinuses. I apologize. His sinuses are just draining like a madman today.
I know them well, and I have a certain affection for most of them. They are girls who went to Hollywood when they were 17 years old, hoping to make the most of their whorish ambitions by becoming movie stars. Very few succeeded, and many got sidetracked into the sex business, where work is always available. My pussy is my ticket to ride, a stripper named Bambi once told me. Men want to see my pussy, and they want to see me fuck something scary. That's why they pay me.
Yeah, nothing wrong with being honest about what you do.
And that's why I do it. Bambi was a lovely girl from a middle-class family in Sacramento, with an elegant body and a seductively morbid sense of humor. I liked her, and used my influence to help her become a star at the O'Farrell, where she routinely made $1,000 a night, I was always...
Could you imagine that, though, making $1,000 a night, cash money, all in tips? I mean, other than the sex part of it, you know, but the could you imagine doing that at like Chili's or, you know, waitress or waiter someplace? You know, it's kind of one of those things. And being cash, what you declare is what you declare, and what you don't declare, you don't declare. It's one of those things.
Tempted to fuck her, but I never did. I was deeply in love with my girlfriend Maria at the time. She was a sex star in her own right, and a jewel of a friend and a lover.
Yeah, it's always good when you can reflect back favorably on partners you had in the past.
My night manager job put me in close contact with dozens of aggressively naked women every night, which never ceased to amaze me and kept me constantly high on sex.
I wonder, though, if you're around it enough all the time like that, is if you'll eventually, like, become numb to it and just don't want it as much as you normally do.
It was an overwhelming work environment at times, but with Maria's help, I soon became comfortable with it. Not everybody can handle being surrounded by lust, beauty, and clearly available nakedness at all times.
I know I couldn't.
It is like living in the Garden of Eden, with luscious apples hanging from every tree, and the power to banish all snakes, which were everywhere, writhing and cooing with a lust that bordered on madness.
Sounds like most people I know. A lot of men I know.
Only a freak of passion would have resisted that kind of massive temptation, and on some nights, I came close to caving into it. You are crazy as a goddamn loon not to fuck every one of these girls, Artie Mitchell told me. They all love you and they all want to fuck you like animals. I've never seen anybody turn down so much guaranteed fine pussy. It makes me sick. So what? I would say to him. You are a sleazy whoremonger and you don't understand anything.
Yeah, I definitely understand Thompson's viewpoint there. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I don't have any first-hand knowledge in it, but from an academic outsider point of view, I understand it.
Herb Cain told me you have syphilis. What? He would scream. You sick bastard! I'll kill Herb Cain if he ever prints that. Herb Cain sucks dicks. Jim and Artie Mitchell were as bizarre a pair of brothers as ever lived. I loved them both, but the sex business had made them crazy.
I imagine the sex business make everyone crazy.
They made millions of dollars off of sex and smuggled guns to the IRA when they weren't fondling naked girls or entertaining corrupt cops and politicians. But they were not...
Well, yeah, that's happened in Houston all the time. People, or your gentlemen's clubs, as they like to advertise them in this day and age, has been the downfall of many a Houston politician.
Suave. Neither one of them had social ambitions, but they fought like wolves to protect their vice-ridden turf. They were deep into San Francisco politics, but they were always in desperate need of sound political advice.
Yeah, I imagine with that much sex, there's probably an overflowing amount of drugs going along with it, so kind of crazy.
That was my job. The night manager gig was only a cover for my real responsibility, which was to keep them out of jail, which was not easy. The backstairs politics of San Francisco has always been a Byzantine snake pit of treachery and overweening bribery-driven corruption so
It sounds like any major metropolitan area.
perverse as to stagger the best minds of any generation. All political power comes from the barrel of either guns, pussy, or opium pipes.
And I have a strong feeling that that is a lot more accurate than we want to believe.
And people seem to like it that way. The charm of the city is legendary to the point of worship all over the world, with the possible exception of Kabul, New Orleans, and Bangkok.
He's got a point. Those are some rather sex-ridden cities, especially New Orleans.
On that cold night in late February when the witness came to my house, she was wearing a blue business suit that made her look a bit on the chubby side, and high-heeled shoes that would have made her seem dangerously tall if my other guests had not been well over 6 feet and none too happy to see her. Her head was huge.
Thompson's physical descriptions of people are usually not very nice.
Far larger than mine, and her body was oddly muscular, more in the style of a female bodybuilder with an uncontrollable appetite for speed and lethal steroids who had spent too much time in sexually oriented weight rooms on the wrong side of Hollywood.
That would make for a interesting movie, documentary type movie, docudrama or whatever, a faux documentary type thing, or kind of a strip, kind of like the old movie Striptease, except with a good script and good actors and actresses.
She was clearly an athlete, a big girl, in a word, and she spoke with a witty confidence that made me nervous. My mother would have called her pushy, or perhaps even rude, but I'm not so polite. To me, she looked sleazy. There was something corrupt about her, something foul and dishonest that would have put me instantly on my guard if I had cared enough to worry about it that night.
Yeah, sometimes people just they trigger that spidey sense in you, and you just got to go with it, I guess.
But I didn't. She meant nothing to me at the time. We get all kinds of people in this house, from common thugs and deviants to stupid thieves with hearts full of hate and U.S. senators with amazing whores on their arms.
And that I would believe from all the things I've read, interviews I've seen, and people that were close to Thompson during his life. Yeah, I'd believe that.
Some arrive on private jets, and others drive stolen cars full of illegal drugs and weapons. It is an ugly mix at times, but I have learned to live with it, if only because I am a professional journalist and a writer of books about life in the weird lane, which is interesting in the Chinese sense, but not necessarily uplifting.
Okay, so yeah, I like that, the weird lane. And we will close off this episode here in the weird lane, just because this video is starting to run a little long, and I want to keep it from being way too long, which gives me a perfect segue into, on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to try and upload one video, but it's going to be like a 30-40 minute, it's going to be a long video. So I'm looking for something that's out of the ordinary, that's doesn't have the seriousness of, say, Kingdom of Fear, or the spookiness of rabbits or black tapes, or the general ramblings of the Gen X playlist. So I'll hopefully have that figured out by this weekend, and we'll have that first long video like that posted. So until next time, be a good human, be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?